Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Jake from Going Off, thank you for joining us to have a
My
chat about all things that are going on at the moment. Lots going on. Um, I just really wanted to kind of get a feel for, as a starting point, you guys as a creative unit. So your new album comes out tomorrow, officially.
Uh-huh.
Um, you've obviously got releases prior to this. What was the kind of mindset of the band coming into when you started crafting this new set of tracks? What did you want to achieve from this record compared to that would elevate you
Yeah,
from the last one? Destroy the last was the last release. Am I correct?
yeah. So we recorded Destroying, I think it was during lockdown. Obviously we had one gig. Funnily enough, we had one show and it was 3 years ago yesterday. And then we played one show and then everything kind of went to pot.
Yeah.
And then it was through lockdown that we Destroy was created. We kind of jammed it out a few times and then we booked to record it. And then not too long after that, our creative process is usually we're quite efficient. Our guitarist Ben, who starts with the riffs, he gets bored of tunes very quickly. So he'll quickly be like, right, I wrote that, I've recorded that, it's time to move on. I need to purge more. I think he purges a lot of feelings through his writing. So shortly after, Ben had written four more tunes. And four of those tunes actually feature on the album. We jammed them as a live demo, and they were really rough trackings, but it was just all live tracks. And then eventually, we just kept working on new music. Originally, we weren't going to have these other four tracks on the album, and it was going to be like an EP. But we were like, oh well, we might as well do demo, studio versions of those four tracks, and add them to these other tracks that we'd made, and we'll make an album. So it was kind of decided that we had this new music and we had those four tracks that we needed to realize as studio versions, and then we were like, that can be our album, that can be our first statement pieces. Here you go, here's our first LP. The creative process is always, like I say, quite fast. It's usually Ben and Hef, so that's our rhythm guitarist who does a lot of the writing, and our drummer. They jam out their ideas, and then I get a very rubbish recording on a video. I get video audio and I start listening to that and I start writing along to the rhythms of that. And then, every time we meet up, every time we jam, they just get fleshed out more and more. And then really the last layer of it all gets created in the studio. We lay down the foundations. I get the guys to come and start doing some vocals with me and explain to them what the songs mean. And then we start building like a soundscape on top of that as well. Like adding like guitar effects, adding samples, whatnot. Until it just became like this album, just until it became a full piece.
Okay. With regard to this album, what I got from listening to it was there was definitely a growth in the band as a writing. It still, it sounded like Going Off, but you could tell there'd been a growth and elevation to it. The difficulty side of things with underground music, so anything is losing that sense of being an underground band.
Yeah.
How do you look to elevate yourselves as songwriters without losing essentially what makes music like this really special? Because like from a personal point, I'm now kind of really I've gone kind of the opposite way of a lot of older people who listen to music, because a lot of people they'll be impressed by large, big epic things. I'm not. I pretty much listen to hardcore death metal and underground hip hop. So that's kind of where I kind of lay. So I like still having that special feeling of underground music. How do you look to elevate your songwriting without losing what makes it special?
I think our elevation has just come through us getting more comfortable as songwriters as a unit. we've been together now just over 3 years, and with these three releases, each time we hit the studio, each time we flesh out these ideas that start as a riff, and then everything gets added. Well, the thing that remains the same throughout is that we write these songs first and foremost as songs that we want to hear, and we write them. Ben will write riffs, and there'll be so much variation in what he's writing, and I think that's just because he listens to such an array of different music, and everyone in the band has such a big range of influences in their playing, in their music, like what they like to listen to, the hardcore bands that have influenced them over the years. And so I think what that means is that with us always just wanting to first and foremost write songs that we want to hear, we will never stop. We never seem to stop limiting ourselves to say, like, right, this is our sound now, or this is the sound that we need to be going for. It's more so like a song could be made of 2 or 3 riffs, and I think like songs like Premium Dream, there's some like new metal kind of sounding elements to it, and then there's other songs where they're just really fast and punky, and we just when we get excited by listening back to the songs, that for us is what's like the most important thing. When we're all there, and it's just like we wrote these songs because we love the sound of them, and it's stuff that we want to hear, and that keeps it exciting for us, and it keeps it true to us. We don't. And then upon reflection, sometimes we listen back to a release and we're like, right, we actually prefer this song. And, we're not even big fans of like some of our older songs. But at the time, we were just like, we wrote the songs, we stuck to it, and we just wrote them for ourselves. And I think, even now, we have more music recorded and being tracked, and we find ourselves getting more and more excited by what we're writing. I feel like, I'm still seeing growth, and I'm still seeing development. And that's, I think, just because we're getting more and more comfortable with our process.
The album title. The album title's a question, which is kind of, you don't see that an awful lot, at least I don't. It's normally a statement. Yeah. Who's the question being asked to? And how does that question influence some of the lyrical topics on the record?
I think the lyrical topics came before the question itself. And then I think, again, with a lot of my lyrical topics, I have come to kind of accept it. Going Off for me is a platform for me to shout about the things that either make me mad or make me tick. And I've always, especially with the album, I started to ask the band, what is it you guys want me to be shouting about? Like, what is it that you want to get said? What is it that you... And then I think through that, it's like I was asking the guys, before I even thought of the album name, I'm like, what is it that makes you tick? And then I think through that, it kind of, what makes you tick, when I landed on it, kind of just made sense instantly. I was just like, that is what this band does for me. All these songs are things that I think are something that's either personal to me, or I think it's a subject that matters and should be voiced. It almost should be loud about it. And then through that, I was just, that's it. Then what makes you tick is a question that's asked for everybody. It's to everybody. What is it that, what is it that makes you want to go off? What is it that gets you worked up? And it's because it's those things that make me get worked up. And when I'm performing, it's a catharsis for me,
With, again, going back to the recording and just the energy on the record. So you've kind of captured the live energy of Going Off. Now, I've only seen you once, right? I saw you once in Nottingham. You walked off stage, and I walked to your merch bench, and I bought a CD. My girlfriend walked to the merch bench, bought a T-shirt, and bought more online. So there's a live energy that was there's a live energy that's definitely captured with what you do on stage. Yeah. With the new record, you've caught that, which is something that I remember going back. I'm going back to maybe 15 odd years ago. I remember reading a review of a Biohazard record, and they were talking. It was New World Disorder, and what they mentioned was that they captured their energy of them live on record, which they didn't do earlier. Now, that statement's bollocks, because as much as I like that album, Urban Discipline, State of the World Address, the first one, they had that energy to them.
Yeah,
Those
it
have
was
really elevated the end product to capture that furious energy, which a lot of the times with hardcore you only really get on, in a live setting, which is why it's almost such a an enjoyable experience to go to those kinds of shows, because you haven't got a separation of a massive barrier. You haven't got the separation of the band being on a pedestal above the crowd, if you will. How do you kind of look at encapsulating that within the recording process and the product that came out?
So the first two EPs, I mean, the first EP especially, was something that we kind of tracked. The band recorded all at the same time. They played the instruments all together. So it was almost like a live tracked EP. And then I basically did a one vocal take. So in the first EP, what we captured there, which I think, again, when we released that, even though we had a very small audience, we got good response in it. And I think it was because it felt like raw and live.
Yeah. And
then I know for a fact that Going Off is our music and this band is best experienced live. I think that's how it's best translated. But then to translate it to recording, Destroy kind of dipped back a bit because it was, we went to Studio 6 in Swindon, I believe. And it was a bit more very polished. It was kind of brushed up. So, it was kind of me recording almost line by line, and the producer we were doing it with was kind of getting me to kind of track the lines very similarly, and it kind of felt a bit robotic in the end.
Yeah.
Whereas when we went to Noise Boy Studios, where we record now, it's where we practice as well. We did these 4 tracks as a live demo, and then we went in to record the album, and we said to Chris, we were like, we want to kind of keep the raw element as much as possible. We want it to sound like it could be, something that's kind of tracked live but brushed up a bit. And again, I think we did that because as much as it got edited, and it's been mixed and mastered and stuff, when it was tracked, Ben and Hef, Ben played the guide track with Hef. They kind of played along with each other, and then they went over and recorded the parts again, kind of to like brush that up. And I would lay down one take vocal track as my foundation, and then I would layer some bits, or I would pull if I didn't like a line, I'd go back to it and I'd revisit it. But for the most part, I try to get the performance, because I feel like my vocals, kind of fluctuate, and I could try and get that raw aggression through doing one takes. I want the breaths, I want the desperation, and I think that's how it translates to the album. It's just through the way we've tracked it. We wanted to we made sure that we did try and capture that live element.
Brilliant. So, I mean, I take it obviously going from that, you mentioned obviously almost robotic kind of recording process you had on Destroy, that you found that going back and kind of maybe merging the two together in a way has kind of helped basically up the level of the energy on the record. Am I right in the way I've kind of understood
exactly that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, even now, like post album, now we're recording more music. The whole process is just getting smoother. We recorded What Makes You Tick I think it was about a year ago now. And we were in the studio about a year ago. And then now since that year has passed and we're tracking now, it's even more clockwork. And I think it's getting to the point where we're just kind of we're playing in the studio, and like we're having fun with the process a lot more, and trying to be more experimental and getting really comfortable with I'm more comfortable with my vocals as well, I think. And it's Chris who we're recording with at Noise Boy. I really am comfortable recording with him, and he's a great guy. And when you're able to relax in the studio and kind of really enjoy the process, it makes it so much fun. And I think through that we're managing to track some stuff that's sounding really creative and really crazy.
Awesome. The artwork. So the artwork, it stands out.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it? Which artist did you use, and what was the? What did you set as a brief, if there was one?
There was. There was. So like, the idea was, it was my idea. I was sat at home one day and I was like, right, I knew the name, What Makes You Tick. And we've already had this idea of like a bomb, going off, or explosive live. And again, I didn't want to feed too much into this whole going off idea, but at the same time, it's quite accurate. So and we've had the bomb logo, we've had a bomb in our logo for a while. And I was like, what makes you tick? And then I don't know, it was pretty much, I think it came quite instantly. I was like, what about the idea of people waiting in a waiting room, and there's a clock on the wall and it's dead grimy, and there's a guy with a bomb for a head, and there's other bodies around the room sat there, but all their heads have exploded. I was like, what makes you tick? It's like, and so that was my idea, first of all, and I drew this really bad sketch of it. And then I was tasked with, it's like, right, you've got the idea, now find the artist who's mad enough to do it. So we asked a few artists. I asked around a few until Hef actually gave me the suggestion of a gentleman whose Instagram handle is Weasel Face, and he's done a lot of kind of like almost like skater punk kind of illustration and designs, and he does tattooing, and we really wanted that kind of cartoony illustration, in your face, coloring and design work, like artwork. Out of the few people who had turned down the idea and said it was too high concept, I sent him my sketch and he was like, yeah, I can work with that, and it wasn't long before he basically took what was a really basic, stripped back idea and almost copied the same layout, and it had like the same kind of thing, but it was in his style, and turned it into the artwork that is there now.
With obviously with doing it the way you did, because I've had it whenever I've used artists in the past for things, I've always I've given them an idea, they've come back to me with a concept sketch, and because obviously you've got that trust with the artist, it's like yeah or no or whatnot, because you gave that concept to them that you had in your head. Was it more nerve-wracking doing it that way, because you'd already had you'd obviously sketched out an idea of how it should be in you've sketched it out, you've got it in your mind how it needs to look? Is there more of a nerve-wracking kind of excitement in seeing that come to life, because you've had really a lot more to do with that creative process than I've ever had, for example? So
yeah, it was thrilling, really. It was because we at the end of the day, we pay this artist, and you put a lot of trust in him, don't you? But the thing is, he sent us progress. Like, we got the black and white sketch first of all, and some of it was kind of really roughly penciled, but it was one of those things where it's instantly all of any worries or doubt was kind of like squashed, because I could see that it was going to be something that was going to be fleshed out to something crazy, to the point where when it came to the coloring and the colorway, and we would just say, do your thing, and I was just like, I trust you, do what you think pops. And I think that was it. At the end of the day, we said that we want it to be colorful, we want it to be bright, we want it to stand out, and we'd already picked him and his artwork because of those points, so we just fed into that as well. We were just like, hey, you go wild. The only thing we ever ended up changing was like, can you move a logo here, or can you get rid of this little blood pool puddle on the floor here? It was some really minor changes. Other than that, we basically it was a super smooth process, and it was super exciting.
Awesome. So Church Road are releasing the album. Not necessarily. Okay, I need to work out how to phrase this. They're a label that aren't. They don't stick with their guns on particular style wise. They've released everything, and their musical knowledge is it's absolutely top notch. How do you find working with them to help elevate you as a band? Because you could have gone with a strictly hardcore label, but you've gone with a label that's got a vast musical knowledge. How do you find that, and the ideas that they bring to help elevate the release?
It's incredible. We Church Road was our top choice for a long time. They were the guys that, above all else, it was Hef, and it's quite a long time ago that Hef put us onto them as a band, and we obviously their name had circled around a lot already, and they are such an exciting label because of the variation. And I think going off, although like the music itself is aggressive hardcore, we've always been a band that's for everybody, and like we're for the freaks, like, and we're for the different, and we all love variation, and so Church Road was always something that we were kind of pining for from the get go, and so we ran with going for them. I reached out to them first. We reached out to a few other labels, and thankfully Justine and Sammy obviously enjoyed what they heard, and we'd already kind of like built a bit of a small relationship with them. They stocked some of our Destroy 7-inches for us quite early on, and I think we booked some of their bands to play Manchester, some of the Church Road bands already. So we kind of already built this, a friendship between us. But yeah, we went for them because of the exact reasons you say. They showcase such an exceptional variety of fantastic music, and we thought to ourselves, we'd love to be Church Road's leg of hardcore. We'd love to be another band that gets to showcase such variety, and we're blessed to be a part of it. We really are. They have they've done so much for us already, even with this album coming out. So we're really grateful to be working with them.
Awesome. You're partway through a release tour schedule. So you did last weekend, you did 4 shows. This weekend you've got 3. How have you found I assume that is there more newer songs within the set than you would have been playing over the last 12 months? I know you said the album was written, but were you a bit wary of playing new material because it can sometimes tame a crowd out in my experience if people aren't familiar with the material? And kind of what are the plans further into the year for obviously for more touring for you?
So music wise, for a while we were kind of like, oh, we can't play any album tunes until it's released because no one will know them. But then as we were playing shows, we quickly realized, well, at the end of the day, nobody really knows what songs we're playing anyway. No one specifically knows any certain songs. So we just kind of said, forget it. Like we'll definitely, we've played some album tunes in this set for quite a while that haven't been released. They'll get released tomorrow. But the thing is, the crowd response has been great, and I think that's because we know the energy of some of those songs. Some of them have really big moments that are for the crowd to go wild, and so we've been playing like some of these album tunes, like you say, the 4 shows of the weekend, and it's just crazy. Like it's some of the responses, some of the shows is just like it blows my mind. It makes me go even crazier. Like I'm running around like a maniac on stage. The crowd are running around like maniacs. It's great. And considering some of the music is unheard, I still feel like, thankfully, because of the catchiness and like the simpleness, as so sometimes like it's drawn back, like the riffs, the crowd to kind of move along to and enjoy. So the pace of a lot of these album songs was kind of accessible even without knowing the songs themselves. I'm very excited to play more of the album songs once the album's out, and hopefully, I've noticed since we've dropped singles, some people have been shouting the words back to me, and that's quite refreshing. And so I hope as the album comes out, more people learn more of the songs and the meanings behind them, and I'll start seeing people shout those. As to your second question, we're getting booked up. We've got 2000 Trees Festival, we've got Manchester Punk Festival, we've got another Manchester-based festival called 0161, which is an anti-fascist festival that have asked us to play. And we're getting more weekenders booked up. And just seeing what comes around, really. So far, we're being kept very busy. I can only hope we get busier as well.
Is there any parts of the the UK specifically that you've not yet had the chance to visit and are kind of like quite eager to play in?
Scotland. I'd love to go and play up in Scotland because we've not had the chance to really go and do any shows around there yet. And there is one gentleman on our Facebook that keeps reminding us that we've not been to Scotland. So, yeah, I would like to go there. And because one of my old bands, we did 5 dates around Scotland, and it's beautiful to go around as well. And it was great. Other than that,
Because you've been kind of like you see the name everywhere, like pretty much everywhere in the UK. You'll see flyers for shows, and your name's there. So it was kind of,
yeah.
is there anywhere that you've not tapped up yet that is that's one that you're
We've
looking
not
to?
we've not done Birmingham, I don't think. And I know there's a good scene in Birmingham, but we've not really done Birmingham. Leeds, we played one show in Leeds before. But our next show in Leeds will be our second show in Leeds, and that's the one with Gel at Boom. So I'm excited for that because we've not, I said we played Leeds once, but I'm excited to play Leeds again and to play at Boom because it's my first time playing at Boom as a venue. No, but yeah, we do try and get around. It's like we only just went to Brighton for the first time on Friday, and I wanted to play Brighton for so long, and it was obviously it's quite hard. Like we all work, we're all very busy with work, and sometimes driving down, say for one-off shows, if it's a 5-6 hour drive, is it's not feasible. But now that we're building weekenders, and now that we're planning routes, we are starting to touch places we've not touched. But Scotland, I think, is the main one. I'd like to go up to Scotland, and play a few shows around there.
Brilliant. Brilliant. More just a couple of general questions, really, just on your viewpoint towards how really hardcore it is currently in the UK. What I've kind of noticed since lockdown eased now a couple of years ago is that things are going back to being a lot more. There's a lot more of a mixture of bands playing together.
Yeah.
Whereas previously you kind of got into a situation, at least this is personally my opinion, it's not necessarily factual, but you'd see a lot of like for like shows. You'd have 4 bands who all did the same thing, which sometimes is great. Sometimes it can be a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm seeing less of that. I'm seeing less than that. I'm seeing more and more kind of mixture of styles coming together and showcasing that, there's more to, the actual individual scene than how it breaks away.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing, are you seeing the same? I mean, in Manchester, where it's always been it's always been one of the kind of like the main cities in the UK. Are you kind of getting a similar feel to it? And what's your kind of views on how the state of the scene in the UK is at the moment?
So UK hardcore is super exciting. Going off for me, I was in metalcore bands before, and I quite like a lot of black metal and like really heavy stuff. So to get into hardcore and hardcore punk, again, it's the same as like why we go for Church Road. It's the same as like we've been. Our drummer Hef, he's been putting on shows in Manchester that Going Off have been playing, and we've always been fans of mixed bills. There's so much good music out there, and it's not all like, as you were saying, these bills where it's just bands that all kind of sound like they're supposed to be played together. You hear one band and you hear the next band, you're not getting to experience a variety of like emotions and like music. This weekend we just did is with a band called Out of Love, and their sound is so entirely different to ours, but we absolutely love playing shows with them because we love to watch them, we love to listen to them, and it's the same. That's reciprocated with them, and I think it's so much more uplifting to play and hear bands of all different walks of life and all different styles of music, because we don't all just sit and listen to one specific style of music. And I think it's great to see that live as well. It's great to go to a show and like people love to mosh, and I love seeing people mosh to us, but it's nice to have a breather. It's nice to kind of like be locked into something that's more ambient or melodic, and and go through those experiences. I think that's what's exciting to me about shows. You want to see the bands that have these crazy energy, and you want to see the bands that captivate you with the sound as well. I think it's so important to expose yourself and experience a variety of music, because variety is the spice of life.
Well said. Well said. Really, last thing, just want to say: is there anything that you want to basically talk about? Anything that you want to say, just to top off the interview at all, please?
No, just thank you so much for asking me to come and do an interview with yourself. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being at shows already, and I hope to see you again in the future, man. It's a really exciting time, and I'm honoured to be given a platform to speak further into the band and dive into the mind of Going Off.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.